Do you remember what happened last episode?
Vaguely.
Yeah,
It's been, 2 weeks now?
Yes, it's been about 2 weeks. Also, we only have 2 episodes to do today. So, hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time on Doctor Who Classic, we started out the Dominators. What happened, if you can remember?
Well, first of all, we skipped a week because of some technical issues.
Yes. Now, I should say that it doesn't appear like that in the actual uploads because we're basically taking a week between the Wheel in Space and the Dominators so that everything lines up a bit better. But for us, the break was between these 2 videos of the Dominators, so we're kind of struggling on this one.
But if I recall, they landed on what appears to be an alien planet. I don't think it's Earth.
Right.
And there are some people who are, thrill seekers going out to this supposedly nuclear irradiated island, but when they get there, there's no radiation. And it turns out that some aliens to their planet have landed and are looking for some kind of fuel. But these guys are very militaristic, very fascistic, and they have these robot android semi things called the Dominators, who are basically...
They're called the Quarks.
Quarks, that's right.
The aliens are the Dominators.
That's right. So anyway, the Doctor and Jamie and Zoe are captured or are working with the natives of the planet and are working against the Dominators. What are they? The Crotons or... No, that's somebody else. I don't remember what they are. Anyway, last we saw there was this beginning of an uprising against the bad guys, and that's all I remember.
It was something like that, because there was also, the whole thing is, I think the planet is called Dulcus, or maybe the people are, but, they're, extremely not curious at all.
Yes.
Like they'll accept facts, but that's it. They won't really question it. There was the one moment where it's like, oh, well, the radiation is gone after 175 years. Then it must take 175 years for radiation to disappear. But that's not... They don't really go into how that... but there's the one guy, I think it's Cully, who questions things. But that makes it difficult for him and his father, who's the director of the Council of Talking Men. And...
Council of Talking Men.
Yeah. The most non-specific thing I could have said. So, yeah, and they're trying to deal with the Dominators and everything, and yeah, it was something like that.
Okay.
So.
Vague memories.
Yes. We have 2 episodes that we're doing today, because this is only 5 episodes long, so we'll be doing parts 4 and 5 today. Now, I know, actually, the next serial is another 5-parter, but people actually said that we should try to do all 5 in one sitting, and mainly because 3 or 4 of them are 10 minutes shorter than they should be. So some of the episodes are shorter. So maybe next episode we will do that. And I've heard also it's actually better if you don't stop in the middle of that one. So
my school ended yesterday. We're doing this 3rd weekend of May, so I have plenty of time. I don't have to worry about doing anything else.
Yeah,
doing homework or anything. Although I am already working on curriculum for next year.
So we could try to go ahead and do that for the next one, which is called The Mind Robber. So, but for now, we have the last 2 episodes of The Dominators, so I guess we should just go ahead and get into that.
I'm wondering if it was a 6-parter that they cut down, or is it actually written as a 5-parter?
I don't know. It might have been a 6-parter they cut down, because we've had that before. Yeah. With Planet of Giants was a 4-parter that they cut down to 3, so which worked out really well for that one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let's find out.
On the
orders of Dominator Toba, the building was destroyed.
The subs are a lot bigger than I remember them being.
Far from satisfied with your conduct on this mission. I protest. Silent! I'm beginning to wonder if you have the qualities of intelligence and detachment necessary in a Dominator.
Where have I failed?
You have repeatedly destroyed the creatures and installations of this planet to no purpose.
My purpose was to protect us.
Protect? You've jeopardized our mission by unnecessary softness. You've humiliated me before members of an inferior race. Perhaps it is you who is not fit to be a Dominator.
You have the insolence to threaten me.
It is not unknown for a leader who is unfit to be replaced.
It is not unknown for a mutinous subordinate to be executed.
You would not dare. Well, Toba, shall I order molecular force, or do you submit?
I submit.
If only we could open that hatch. No good.
That's an
Feels though the
angle
whole
I wouldn't want to
building's
look at.
October
No.
I'm going to the alien leader to investigate potential slave
Notice they never
force who
look
will remain
directly
here
at
and
each
complete the
other.
drilling operations.
Well, yeah.
Command accept.
I don't know, man. There's too much styrofoam.
No point in hanging around, eh?
We had a laser gun before. I mean, that's hidden underneath all this lot now.
There wasn't a laser gun where I come from. Your asthma crewmen still dealt with the redcoats right enough.
Redcoats.
Aye, there was... Oh, never mind. Look, you're with me.
Well,
I mean, you still had weapons. Did Jamie even fight that much?
No, he was a piper.
Yeah, so...
Right, let's start some trouble. But what can we do? Oh, I have a wee idea that should just stir them up a bit. Come on.
You just push a rock down a cliff?
Yeah. I was going to say, start an avalanche.
Report.
I mean, you could probably just run up and drop kick him and they'd go down.
Now, Cully!
Oh, that's going to leave a mark.
Nah.
Metallic scream.
Nah.
Perhaps if we show these creatures we mean no harm.
It's always possible that they mean harm to us.
Why should they? Surely no civilized race would indulge in purposeless violence.
I'm here for purposeless violence.
You control the population.
Yes, we presume that...
I require information.
If you would care to make an appointment, that is, after all, a direct
You defy me. You defy a Dominator.
He's had enough of that
Senex is our
today.
leader, and as such he demands respect.
You will obey my command.
Sir, you would do better to request rather than command.
Silence! Perhaps if we were to explain after all...
Could have bore him to death.
No.
Give you no further warning. I insist.
Oh, the other guy's gonna be pissed.
You're next. You know the boy. Where is he? Answer, or you will die.
Alrighty. That is part 4.
Well, certainly not a dull moment. I mean, the script is very good.
Yeah.
And again, I like the Dominators. The costumes and their personalities make them very ferocious. It's just that the Quarks are so... I mean, aside from the fact that they can kill you on the spot, they're so physically non-impressive.
Yeah.
You know, they look like a children's toy.
You remember in the first Dalek serial when they would just like lift up a Dalek and chuck him and it killed him? I feel like you could do that so much more easily. Like probably Jamie could do that by himself with a Quark, you know?
But again, an interesting premise, which, and again, of course, they're keeping us in suspense right until the last. What exactly are they drilling for? You know, we haven't figured it out yet. We had originally thought it might be that they had sucked up some of the radiation, but now, why are they drilling into the magma? So,
yeah, we're not sure about that. So, but it is definitely to refuel their fleet. That's basically what they've said. Yeah. So, it does kind of feel strange that we only have one more episode. Like, I feel like because we just haven't figured things out yet that we should have a little bit more. But nope, just one more.
Place rockets in all perimeter holes. Understood.
Command accepted.
Recall all Quarks from this ridiculous search and conserve their power. We can afford no more delays.
They have such great aim.
I wish we had some food, though. I'm fair famished.
Hold on. I seem to remember...
What?
That there would be rations in a shelter?
Survival kit. Goes with the shelter. Food, medicines, all that sort of thing. Ah.
Well, what's that?
Try it. Basic nutrients. Vitamins, carbohydrates, proteins. You can live on it for years.
Well, I hope I'm not
Yes,
going to do
vitamins.
That. You haven't brought that periscope?
Yes.
Wait a minute.
You can throw a sheet over them.
Oh, yes, lack of peripheral vision.
I mean, I was going to trip it.
A clock is being attacked. Follow.
Well, that worked. Whatever he did.
Hawks, search and destroy.
They're already running low on power, according to Rago.
Yeah, he's going to be pissed.
They will die with their planet.
Good. So the sooner we complete the drilling operations, the sooner they will die.
Now, if someone will get back to that.
Hawks, follow me.
You see, we heard the Dominators say that the Dulcians were unsuitable as slave labor.
But then they'll leave us in peace.
Well, no. They said you'd all die with
Just not how it works. You need to understand that.
All we've got to do is dig a tunnel through from here to the borehole and catch the seed device thing on its way down. Oh, well, it was just an idea. But Jamie,
Isn't that what they did in the Dalek movie?
it's a brilliant idea.
Diverted the thing dropping
so
down the
simple, only you
borehole.
could have thought of it.
Yeah, I think something like that.
It's surprising what you can do with a few simple chemicals and a little ingenuity. Now, come on, we must dig this tunnel. I think you'd better let me start it, Jamie.
How are you going to dig through there with your sonic screwdriver?
Hey,
A little more than a screwdriver. Just watch this.
jeez. Man, he needs to use that feature more often. Maybe throw it a bit better.
Yeah.
Ooh. Good shot.
That's it!
Continue working.
He finally learned. That's a good throw. Good throw, not a great landing.
I think they've attacked the drilling quark. Has the drilling stopped? I think... Yes!
Yeah, they could also use these explosions to help drill their own hole.
You see what damage they're doing with their primitive explosives?
What's happened? We hit by a quark. Lucky for him, it's powerful.
Got your hand up his skirt there.
Lucky indeed.
There is a way of getting it off the planet without it doing any harm to any of us at all.
Ooh.
How?
Ah, but it's not going to be easy.
Well, what are you going to do?
Just leave it to me, Jamie.
This is gonna be brutal.
You, Zoe, come back.
Possible countdown is starting. Obey!
Oh.
Come on, Willie, the whole place is
Vaporized
going to
it.
blow up. Oh, it's quite all right, Jamie. The planet is quite safe. There's just going to be a localized volcanic eruption. It'll only affect the island. Maybe so, but we happen to be on the island. Oh, my word!
Righty. And that is part 5. Very brutal way of getting rid of that seed there.
Well, that was pretty much the only thing left to them.
Yeah. To the doctor's credit, he did not really have any other option of getting it off of there. So the only thing I could the only thing I thought was if he got in the TARDIS, took off, then just chucked it into the time vortex and left immediately. Yeah. But I'm just going to assume maybe the TARDIS isn't that fast. So, okay.
Well, that doesn't seem like it was cut down from 6 episodes.
Yeah, that's true. Probably was just a 5-part episode. So,
now again, I have to say, if you want to talk about an opponent, if you will, that is worthy of coming back, the Dominators certainly are. I mean,
yeah, and they're still out there. So,
well, I mean, yeah, we assume the fleet will find other fuel somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, compared to Cybermen and Daleks, these guys are, first of all, humanoid, and therefore capable of making, non-rational decisions, like, what was his name?
Toba.
Yeah. So the Quarks, of course, would be upgraded later on with better technology.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's they're an interesting group.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I remember, I think, like, we got comments or something where people were saying, like, oh boy, can't wait to get to the Dominators. Like maybe it's not one of the most well-regarded episodes, and it's not one of the greatest episodes we've ever had, but that was all right. It was decent. Yeah. So
better than some of the other ones we've seen recently.
Yeah. And definitely, like, it helps that it is 5 parts. Now, maybe you could have, if you really tried to cut corners, you could have gotten this down to 4 parts, but at 5 parts, it's pretty decently length, so...
Yeah. Now, again, the only thing that I can think of is, ultimately getting back to the, Council of Talking Men, as you call them, I think.
Yeah.
And again, like Ian did back in the Cavemen, is convincing them that sooner or later, they cannot simply be accepting of things the way they are. They're going to have to innovate. They're going to have to build if nothing else, a defense force. They certainly may not go on offense, but they certainly have to build a defense force. So, I mean, all in all, I really enjoyed it at 5 parts. So, yeah, I'd like to see them again sometime.
Yeah.
Except for the Quarks. I think the Quarks are just a little too silly.
Yeah. And that is the one thing, like, the Dulcians, like, I feel like they started, like, an arc, but they just didn't finish it. Yeah. Like, and maybe if we had an extra episode, we could have seen a bit more of that, gone back to the council and stuff. But, yeah, it just seems like, well, did they learn their lesson? Nah. Doesn't matter.
An epilogue with Cully there at the end would have been good, where he said, based on my experiences, surely, and what they did with the guy who was killed there in the council room, he could come in and say, at least let us start the conversation about defending our planet.
Yeah, so that is kind of weird that there's just sort of nothing with the Dulcians at the end. It's just taking out the Dominators, and then it ends. So, to go into the notes, and of course, this is notes for 2 episodes, so we may have a slightly shorter discussion. It may just be a slightly shorter video than what we normally have. But the first thing I wrote down was insubordination, basically, between Toba and, was it Rago? Rago, yeah. I kept wanting to say Roba, and I was like, no, his name is Toba, and I'm probably also thinking of Robson, so... that was interesting, just the continual, but I mean, like, it shows, I like the 2 different mindsets and the conflict between the 2 of them, you know? Like, in this sort of race that it's like, oh, well, they are the big, the fascist sort of empire, but there's also, like, differences between them and stuff, like, one of them is like, no, we need to come in here, we need to do our mission and everything, and the other one is like, no, they attacked us, we must attack. It's kind of like, sometimes they do that in Star Wars, where, like, they show different people in the Empire, and I know you don't like Rebels, but they've done that a lot in Rebels, like with Grand Admiral Thrawn and stuff like that, like the different sides to, like, people, how people think within the Empire. So I definitely like that between the 2 of them in this one.
Well, that gets into some very interesting dynamics there, because, that doesn't just happen in fascist societies, but also in democratic societies.
Well, yeah.
We've had people in the United States back in the 60s who said, if you're going to prosecute this war, then you need to do everything you can to destroy the enemy. And others who said, no, the purpose is not to destroy the enemy. The purpose is to, for example, save democracy in Vietnam, for example. But, some of those voices begin to drown out the, hey, we're here to protect democracy, to we're here to destroy communism instead. So, and again, I thought that was an interesting treatise here and very subtly played. You don't, I didn't immediately think of Vietnam as what was going on here. But again, this is whole part of that into the colonial era in the 50s and 60s, even up into the 70s. Here are some colonizers. What do we have to do to prevent these people from taking the resources and enslaving the people, whether it's in Africa or in Australia or South America or whatever. So I mean, it's an interesting treatise. I thought it was very well done, very well written. Again, and it's not even really a complaint, the Quarks are very menacing, but they don't look menacing. I think just a simple redesign of them could have made them much scarier. And again, the female voice, Sheila, whatever her name was there can be a very menacing, very frightening female voice, but again, the Quarks seriously seem like they were being designed to sell as merchandise, and I realize this is long before we got into merchandise heavily the way they did after Star Wars came out in the late 70s. So, anyway, minor complaint. Other than that, really enjoyed all 5 episodes.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things because, obviously the Quarks don't really have personality. Like, all of the sort of villain personality comes in through the Dominators, so the Quarks more or less are just tools in this. But you're right, it's like, because they're really short, they look like, Jamie could easily just go over, push him down, and that's just that. And he kind of did too with that sheet. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like they're really small. They just sort of lumber around, and they've got the 2 arms, and that's about it. And
again, no peripheral vision.
Yeah. So it is just a bunch of things where it's like, okay, it's not really menacing at all. So
and there, that's an idea that could have been explored, where Toba and Rago begin to realize we have these incredibly efficient machines that can drill and do all this other stuff and destroy the enemies and all that, but they have a fatal flaw, is that they have one-sided vision. So you sneak up behind them and push them over, and they're totally useless.
Yeah.
So I mean, there could be how could we as a dominating species have come up with such an ineffective design for our tools?
Now I think they said at one point, like, the Dominators as a whole, they wanted to replace the Quarks with slave labor, but that slave labor now, that's not necessarily like the weapons basically that they've been using the Quarks as in this one. So I think there was like one line in there about that, which then you could have gone into, it's like, well, these things, we have them, but they're not that great. We're trying to get better stuff, or, at least better, more efficient slaves. If you could have someone like Jamie, that'd probably be great for them, if he wasn't rebelling every 5 seconds. But still, so...
Yes, that always seems to be the problem with humankind. We rebel against outside influences.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of rebellions, part of it was throwing rocks. Now, at first, when he was just throwing the rocks, I was like, is this really just all it's going to take? But then they got the big styrofoam boulder that they rolled down the hill.
Which, by the way, slowing it down and doing it in semi-slow motion there, that looked very effective. It really looked like a big rock.
Yeah, and then adding in the correct sound effects and everything. Yeah. So it did work. It got one of them. So they did take the radiation. That was the thing, was that their ship absorbed all the radiation on the island. And so the whole thing is that their fleet is powered by radiation, but I found it interesting they say they don't have atomic reactors. So they don't produce any of their own atomic energy, which, I mean, how hard could that be for this, great species or whatever? But instead they just go from planet to planet, converting the magma core into radiation for them to store for their own fleet. Yeah. That was interesting. An interesting way of doing it, because it's not something you would think about, and yet the whole thing of when you hear like, okay, they don't have atomic reactors, and you think, well, okay, that's kind of weird that they don't make it, but maybe they're beyond trying to make something like that, or they just don't have the time. Maybe they're too focused on war to try to build something like that.
Well, I mean, it does seem efficient, because literally every planet will have some kind of core like that, and if you can irradiate the core and then blow up the planet or blow up a portion of the planet, then you just go in and then scoop up the radioactive materials. Again, it's very efficient.
Yeah,
and it seems to, in my opinion, fit right into what they were doing. I'm getting some flashbacks to the Romulans here, but again, as someone pointed out, Star Trek didn't start in Great Britain until '69, 68 or 69. So there may have been some writers who knew of Star Trek and who might have been influenced by it. But again, this again just has this vague echo of the Romulans, this very militaristic society. You have to go in and do what you are told. And there are several episodes where sub-commanders in the Romulan Empire are too gung-ho, wanting to go out and kill the Klingons or kill the Federation people, that sort of thing. But it's always the commanders who say, no, we have to, the mission is to get the fuel for the fleet. And I realize that you're very eager to prove yourself and show how ruthless you are, but that's not the mission.
Yeah.
So, again, it's very similar, but in its own way, completely different. And so again, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I guess maybe one of the other things of not making their own atomic reactors is, like you said, it could be more efficient actually to just go in and take an irradiated core. But it could also be that maybe that prevents like an atomic failure, basically. If they have a reactor, if something goes wrong, that entire ship probably, is gone. Whereas instead, they just have somewhere to store the atomic energy, so it's probably, maybe it's less likely to fail.
Yeah.
So...
And, I mean, just as kind of a secondary thing, when you go into a planet like that, if you're in a solar system that has 3 or 4 populated planets, blowing one of them up will certainly, teach the other planets in the system, you don't mess with us because this will happen to you too if you don't follow what we do.
Yeah. And so I guess that gives a good reason how, when they say, oh, we've conquered the 10 galaxies, the 10, the only 10 in existence, they got them. So, it at least proves like, okay, yeah, these guys are a force to be reckoned with. So, let's see. And also, not only will they blow up a planet, teach the others a lesson, but then they'll go to the other planets, take them as slaves too. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they're I guess a highly efficient, dominating race, basically. Yeah. So, and considering the fact that we just didn't go to the rest of the fleet, it was just this one ship, they could easily bring them back sometime. So, yeah, I'll be curious if they ever do. I'm sure, like, in a comic or an audiobook somewhere they have.
Yeah.
I think, actually, for Second Doctor audiobooks, the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Second Doctor in the audiobooks is actually played by Jamie in those, because he's still alive. So I'm pretty sure in some of those he plays Patrick Troughton. So let's see. Well, I mean, we kind of covered some of these talking about that. I mean, the next thing I kind of wrote down was the sheet. That's how I guess they didn't kill the quark, but they did sort of, disorient it long enough to...
Yeah, it says its data or its sensors were blocked or something like that.
Yeah, so...
And it makes you wonder what was in the medical kit that would create explosives. Now, I would imagine there might be, like, nitroglycerin pills, which would be used for heart conditions, but what could you mix nitroglycerin with that it would blow up within 10 seconds?
Yeah, because it seemed to imply that it was all from that medical kit that the Doctor created those. Like, unless maybe he carries something with him, because, I mean, who knows what the man keeps in his pockets.
The man had a radiation meter in his pocket.
Yeah.
When he pulled that out. It's the Doctor's coat. It's bigger on the inside.
Yeah. That actually reminds me, and you'll hate this reference, but that reminds me of Ed, Edd n Eddy, actually. Because there's one moment where, obviously this is just a throwaway joke, but Ed opens his jacket and there's just a refrigerator door in it, and then he just opens it and, like, eats a giant sandwich or something. And I always thought that was hilarious, and so, yeah, I wouldn't put it past the Doctor. So, anyway. And speaking of things that the Doctor had, he had the sonic screwdriver again. So I guess they got him a new one after Troughton dropped it.
And this time it worked like an acetylene torch.
Yes. I've never seen the sonic screwdriver do that sort of stuff.
Right. And then beyond that, they were saying that they had to dig a hole about 12 feet in length.
Yes.
And unless that was just sand, I don't see how they could have gotten 12 feet in the amount of time that they had to do that in.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Count of Monte Cristo. it took years for them to get anywhere with that tunnel they dug. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Now, unless they were using the sonic screwdriver to help drill, I'm not sure. Yeah. So, and, in the modern era, there's a joke that the sonic screwdriver doesn't work on wood. It's the one thing in the universe that the sonic screwdriver, it just doesn't affect it. And so that'll come of, like, if there's, like, a wooden door that's, like, locked or something, and he tries and it just doesn't work. Eventually he meets, like, an alien race made of wood, and he's like, oh, of course, this was always going to happen.
Was it the Day of the Doctor? That they were locked in some dungeon with a wooden door and they couldn't get out?
Yeah, that was it. The three of them were locked in there. And then I think because, there were three of them in there, like, the War Doctor said, like, oh, well, we could use the sonic screwdriver to disintegrate the door, but it took 400 years to calculate, so he started it until eventually the 11th Doctor had the calculations complete, and then Clara just came in because the door was unlocked anyway. I think at one point there's a wooden Cyberman because they know he can't do anything, so he just has to outsmart it. But that's just the running joke, is that the sonic screwdriver never works on wood. That would work on wood, though, if that went through at least a solid concrete wall before going to whatever dirt or sand that they were digging through. So, man, he needs to use that feature more often. That was crazy. And then, if you go through all of this to be like, yes, now we have these explosives to help defeat the Quarks. Well, if you say that you were using the explosives to help dig a hole, that would make a lot of sense. Like, oh, okay, you can probably, with enough of those, you can probably make that 12 feet, So...
But I guess they would be heard doing that by Toba.
Yeah.
Up top, so...
I guess that's true. So, and then, yeah, the whole thing of throwing the chemicals was really funny. And then just saying... It's always also funny seeing, like, all right, so here's a shot, and then something will just sort of explode to the side. And then you'll get one shot where it's apparently just the perfect shot. The entire thing blows up, only leaving the feet. Like, so that's always funny. And then the last thing I wrote down was the seed and putting it on the ship, which, again, we can give the benefit of the doubt that there was just nothing else the Doctor could do to get the seed off the planet. But that was a particularly brutal thing for the Doctor to do, just completely just kill them with that. But I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things because, the Doctor is kind of like Batman, like, especially in the movies, like, oh, the Doctor never kills, except when they do. So it's one of those things like, well, if you can try not to kill, that's great. Sometimes the Doctor just has to, though.
Well, it's my favorite line from Batman Begins, though, is right there at the end when he's fighting Ra's al Ghul, and Ra's says, "You won't kill me." He goes, "No, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either."
Yeah. And that actually reminds me, I said that in a comment recently, because there was a moment in a recent episode where the Doctor saved someone by materializing the TARDIS around them, and so they just ended up inside the TARDIS. And I guess this is slight spoilers if anyone hasn't seen Earthshock, but we already have seen Earthshock through our reactions. But people said, oh, wow, why didn't the Doctor do that for Adric? Why didn't he just materialize the TARDIS around Adric and would have saved him? And I basically left a joke comment, and it's like, maybe the Doctor just found this to be the greatest opportunity to get rid of Adric. It's like, well, I could save him, but I won't, So,
well, we haven't seen that much of Adric, so we don't know if he's really annoying.
Well, we haven't. From what I tell in the comments, he was annoying, and his actor was annoying, apparently. Now, granted, this is stuff I'm hearing in comment sections on the internet. I don't know how much of it is true. I'm sure he's a nice guy in real life, but I have heard a rumor that apparently he tried giving Peter Davison acting advice, and Peter Davison tried to strangle him. So, I don't know, and we're not there yet. I don't know the stories, but that's what people say in the comments. So, take that with a grain of salt, I guess.
I felt that way for a few actors too.
Meh. So, well, I guess that's basically it. Do you got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, next time we will have The Mind Robber, which is another part 1 through 5. However, like I said, a couple of the episodes are shorter than normal. Some of them like 21, 19 minutes. So some of them are shorter, so we might just try to power through all 5 of them in one go.
That's that's Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, so not like we have anything to do that next Monday.
Right. So yeah, we'll probably just do that and then move right along to whatever else comes after that. So yeah. But that is basically it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.
Something new?
Something new. I changed up the end screen, so now it's like the next to, we're in the center now, and then there's the subscribe button, there's the Patreon button, there's the playlist, and then there's something else that the people can click on, basically.
Okay.
So, yeah. I might just make that the outro now. I don't know.